Tell me about the $400,000 I sent you. What did you do with it? Dad's question hung in the air like a loaded gun as our family sat frozen around the Thanksgiving table. I felt my stomach drop to the floor as I stammered, $400,000? What are you talking about? While my sister Janet's face drained of all color, her fork clattering onto her plate. Why was she reacting like someone who'd just been caught in the worst lie of her life? The dining room in our family's colonial home had been filled with warm laughter moments before. Mom's turkey sat golden and untouched in the center of the table, surrounded by all the traditional fixings. My husband Tom squeezed my hand under the table, equally confused. We'd driven up from Boston for what we thought would be a normal family holiday. The first one since Dad's heart surgery 6 months ago. The money for your house down payment, Dad said slowly, his brow furrowing. I transferred it 3 months ago. Janet handled everything since I was still recovering. Said you needed it quickly for the closing. My mind raced. Tom and I lived in a rental apartment. We'd been saving for a house, but were nowhere near ready for a down payment. I glanced at Janet, who was staring at her plate like it held the secrets of the universe. Her husband Stephen had gone very still beside her. Dad, I said carefully, we're not buying a house. We never asked for money. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom set down her wine glass with trembling hands. My younger brother Jake looked between Janet and me with growing alarm. Even my nephew, Janet's 8-year-old son Tyler, seemed to sense the tension, shrinking back in his chair. That's impossible, Dad said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Janet showed me your emails. The contract for the house in Newton, the urgent wire instructions. What emails? My voice came out sharper than intended. Dad, I never sent any emails about buying a house. Janet finally looked up, her face a mask of forced confusion. There must be some misunderstanding. Dad, remember you were on a lot of medication after surgery. Maybe you're confused about. I'm not confused, Dad interrupted, his voice gaining strength. I have the bank records right here on my phone. September 15th, $400,000 transferred to the account Janet provided. She said it was Lily's escrow account. My hands shook as I pulled out my own phone. Dad, check your sent folder. Show me these emails I supposedly sent. As he scrolled through his phone, Janet stood abruptly. I need to use the bathroom. Sit down, Mom commanded, her voice carrying an edge I'd rarely heard. Nobody moves until we sort this out. This is ridiculous, Stephen interjected, putting his arm around Janet. Are you seriously accusing my wife of stealing? Nobody's accusing anyone, Tom said evenly, though his jaw was tight. We're just trying to understand what happened. Dad found the emails and handed me his phone. I read them with growing horror. They were sophisticated forgeries. My email address with one letter changed, references to conversations we'd never had. Even mentions of Tom's new promotion that had been announced on Facebook. Someone had done their homework. These aren't from me, I said. Look at the email address. It's Lily Thompson387 at Gmail, not Lily Thompson378 at Gmail. And I would never ask you to wire money without calling first. Janet, Mom's voice was deadly quiet, you handled this transfer. My sister lifted her chin defiantly. Dad asked me to help. He was still weak from surgery. I did exactly what he asked me to do. But you didn't verify with Lily? Jake asked. You didn't think to call her about a $400,000 transfer? The email seemed legitimate. Janet's voice rose. How was I supposed to know? Because you wrote them, I said quietly, the pieces clicking into place. You created the fake email account. You gave Dad the wire instructions. You stole $400,000 and tried to make it look like I asked for it. That's slander. Stephen shouted, standing. We're leaving. We don't have to sit here and listen to these accusations. Actually, you do, Tom said, also standing, because wire fraud is a federal crime. And if Janet took that money under false pretenses, the FBI will definitely want to talk to her. Janet burst into tears. The dramatic, hiccuping sobs she'd perfected in childhood whenever she got caught doing something wrong. But this time, Mom wasn't buying it. Where's the money, Janet? Mom asked. I don't know what you're talking about. The house renovation, Jake said suddenly. Your new kitchen, the pool, the Tesla in the driveway. You said Stephen got a huge bonus. Stephen's face went red. I did get a bonus. $20,000. Jake continued, you told me at Labor Day. $20,000, not $400,000. Dad had gone pale, one hand pressed to his chest. Mom immediately moved to his side. Your pills are in my purse. Jake, call 911. I'm fine, Dad said, though his voice was strained. Just processing. Janet, I need you to tell me the truth. Did you take the money? She needed it more. Janet exploded, mascara running down her face. Lily and Tom both have good jobs. They don't have kids. We have Tyler to think about, and the house was falling apart, and Stephen's company is downsizing. And so you stole it, I said flatly. You stole $400,000 from our father and tried to frame me for it. It wasn't stealing. It was family money. Dad would have given it to me if I'd asked. Then why didn't you ask? Mom demanded. Because he always loved Lily more. Janet screamed. Perfect Lily with her perfect grades and perfect job and perfect husband. Even after Tyler was born, it was always Lily this and Lily that. So yes, I took the money we needed to give my son a better life. The money that should have been ours anyway. The admission hung in the air like a confession at Judgment Day. Stephen sank back into his chair, head in his hands. Tyler started crying, and I felt empty. My sister had stolen $400,000 and tried to destroy my relationship with our parents out of jealousy. I'm calling the police, Tom said, pulling out his phone. No. Janet lunged for him, but Jake blocked her. You can't. I'm family. Lily, please, think about Tyler. I did think about Tyler, crying in his chair while his mother revealed herself as a thief and a liar. I thought about the trust she'd broken, the relationship with our parents she'd tried to sabotage, the federal crime she'd committed without a second thought. Tyler's exactly why we need to call the police, I said. He needs to learn that actions have consequences, that you can't steal from family and blame it on imagined slights. Lily's right, Dad said heavily. This isn't about playing favorites, Janet. This is about you committing fraud against your own father while I was recovering from heart surgery. Tom had already dialed. Yes, I need to report a wire fraud. Yes, we have evidence. The perpetrator is still here. Yes, we'll wait for officers to arrive. Janet collapsed back into her chair, the fight gone out of her. Stephen was already on his phone with what sounded like a lawyer. Mom held Dad's hand while Jake moved to comfort Tyler. And I sat there wondering how we'd gotten here. How my successful suburban sister had decided that stealing $400,000 was easier than asking for help or accepting that different people have different paths in life. The police arrived in 23 minutes. 2 officers who took statements, looked at the evidence, and ultimately arrested Janet for wire fraud, identity theft, and elder abuse. That last one because Dad was over 65 and had been in a vulnerable state post-surgery. Watching my sister being led away in handcuffs while her son sobbed was one of the worst moments of my life, but not as bad as the moment I'd realized she'd tried to frame me for it. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The forensic accountant Tom hired found the money trail easily. Janet hadn't been nearly as clever as she thought. $100,000 for the kitchen renovation, $80,000 for the pool, $70,000 for the Tesla, the rest scattered across credit card payments and a failed investment in Stephen's brother's restaurant. Recovering the money would take time. Rebuilding trust would take longer. And explaining to Tyler why Mommy was facing federal charges would take a miracle. "I'm sorry," Dad said as we sat in the living room later that evening, after the police had gone and Stephen had taken Tyler home. "I should have verified with you directly. I just trusted Janet because she's family," I finished. "And family isn't supposed to steal from each other." "I never loved you more," he said quietly. "You have to know that. You and Janet and Jake, you're all equally precious to me." "I know, Dad. Janet's issues aren't about your love. They're about her own insecurities and choices." We rebuilt slowly after that Thanksgiving. Janet pled guilty to avoid trial, receiving 2 years probation and restitution requirements that would take her a decade to fulfill. Stephen filed for divorce and got primary custody of Tyler. The family split into camps, those who thought I should have protected Janet, and those who understood that protecting her would have meant enabling her. I think about that moment sometimes, when Dad asked about the money and Janet's face went pale. How different things might have been if she'd just asked for help. If she'd been honest about their financial struggles. If she'd chosen trust over theft. But she didn't. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for family is hold them accountable for their choices, even when, especially when, it breaks your heart to do it. The $400,000 was eventually recovered through insurance and legal proceedings. But the real cost, a sister's betrayal, a family divided, a nephew who had to watch his mother get arrested at Thanksgiving dinner, that debt may never be fully paid.